Real world racing is on the verge of getting going in earnest. Tonight, one championship comes to its conclusion because it's round 5, the final race within the BRDC ESports Championship with iZone. We are at Interlagos, the championship already won last time out by Jonathan Haggard, but there is still a lot to play for second and third primarily, but also other places within the top 6, especially given that we've got 2 drivers absent this evening who are within the title race 4th and 5th, Dan Harper and Inam Ahmed, so we can expect an awful lot of shuffling within the top 6, top 10 in that leaderboard by the end of the evening, all behind the mightily impressive Jonathan Haggard. We've had 4 races, he's won 3 of them, the only other winner being Oliver Rowland, and let's see whether Jonathan Haggard can end the season on a high with yet another victory here at Interlagos this evening. Last time out, he was unstoppable at Suzuka. Let's remind ourselves what happened a week ago. 5 lights will go on. When the lights go out, we will be racing at Suzuka now for round 4 of the BRDC Esports Series with iZone. A great start by Sutton. To the inside line, though, goes on the run down towards the first corner. Sandy Mitchell, is he going to be able to squeeze through? No, he's not. So it is Sutton who leads then through the first corner, up towards the snake for the first time. But Sutton gets sideways and loses it in the pack, and there is mayhem. Others get caught up in it, including Inam Ahmed. By the look of it, there's another big roll there. The GT World Challenge Europe, fending off this challenge, is Ben Barnicoat, McLaren factory driver, and Sandy Mitchell gets his nose in front, coming down towards the 130R. And is he going to be able to go through? Yes, he is. So he makes the move quite comfortably. Sandy Mitchell goes by them. Dan Camish should go through on the inside. He does. He moves ahead of James Dorlin, and that puts Dan Cam up into 16th place. As off the road there goes 111 Andy Prio. Inam Ahmed is on the prowl. More contact. I'm afraid Inam Ahmed has a second incident of the race. Now, what can Ben do here about Sandy Mitchell? He was ahead, he lost out. Is he going to be able to fight back? Yes, he is. Sandy Mitchell makes his move. Ben Barnicoat gets in the draft then as they come up towards us. Round the outside of Oliver Turvey, they both go. Sandy Mitchell goes through. Ben Barnicoat stands his ground on the outside line all the way through 130R because that's the inside line for the Casio Triangle. Mitchell goes up into 5th, up into 6th is Barnicoat, and down to 7th is Turvey. For second place on the inside line, Charlie Fagg is ahead of Jordan Albert, but Jordan tries to stand his ground on the inside line now, heading up towards the chicane at the Casio Triangle. He does, he goes back through, goes a little bit deep, rides the curb, comes out ahead, although the back snakes on him. Jordan Albert, interview, back up into second place, Charlie Fagg right there, now planning the move as they come through to start the last lap of the race. Jordan Albert covers off the inside line. Down towards turn 1, Charlie to the outside line, Jordan Albert on the inside, but Charlie Fagg keeps on coming. Wrong line though, can't swoop all the way around the outside, and look at this, all of a sudden Sandy Mitchell is closing right up in 4th place. The 2 drivers ahead delaying themselves, allowing him to get closer and closer and closer. You never know, coming into the chicane, Jordan Albert covers off a challenge from Charlie Fagg. Sandy Mitchell is right there as well. The checkered flag is at the ready then as Jonathan Haggard accelerates his way up towards the timing line to win for the 3rd time in the BRDC Esports Championship with iZone. So here it's Interlagos, free practice almost at a close, and then we'll move shortly to qualifying, and then of course to the final 25-minute race of this 5-round series. We've been to Silverstone, to Monza, to Spa, to Suzuka, all stunning venues, and here at Interlagos the championship comes to its conclusion. This race supported by HP Tuners, a company that looks after tuning tools and software to modify and recalibrate ECUs and gearboxes to get better fuel efficiency and ultimately better performance out of your car. And there are plenty of people on this grid in need of that, I suspect, to try and combat the speed and success of Jonathan Haggard. David Addison, along with Andy Merrick, trackside, looking forward to not only, Andy, a great way to end the championship, but also, just before that, a word about justgiving.com/fundraising/BRDC Esports, because a huge amount of work has gone into this, not only putting the championship on, but also raising money for NHS charities.
Absolutely, David. I mean, it's such a fantastic championship to be involved in and to be part of. I mean, we ultimately, you know, we've got BRDC members together from all types of championships, all types of disciplines within motorsport, all ages as well. Yes. You know, we have some of the youngest rising stars, some of the superstars within the club racing against some of, dare I say it, older generation of members within the club as well. That's fantastic to see. But at the same time, we're doing it, as you say, for a wonderful cause in supporting our amazing NHS. And through the Just Giving page already, it says that we've raised just under £18,000, but actually the eBay auction that we've had from very generous donations from likes Derek Warwick, Dario Franchitti, Jason Plato, and has finished today, and that's going to raise on top of the 17 or just under the 18,000. Sorry, another 4,000. So we're already at about £22,000 on the money we've raised, and it's not finished yet. We still have prizes and auctions running from. We've got a signed poster from British touring car legend Steve Soper, and many more things to come. So absolutely fantastic donations and efforts made by all BRDC members and fans. So yeah, very, very proud of everybody involved in this championship so far.
I mean, amongst the prizes that are up for auction, if you're a British Touring Car Championship fan, there's the experience with Jason Plato, Dan Camish and Tom Ingram. So on the Saturday, you can go and have breakfast with Tom, lunch with Dan, and then have coffee with Jason before you watch qualifying on that afternoon. And then on the Sunday, you can go to Silverstone and watch within the BRDC clubhouse. There's also the Silverstone track day experience, and you can choose between whether you want to go with Dario Franchitti or Derek Warwick. I mean, amazing prizes, aren't they?
To be honest, I'm gutted I lost out on the track day with Derek or Dario, because I thought actually if I pay them enough, they might teach me how to drive properly. I've been trying for 18 years. Amazing prizes. Almost money can't buy prizes, and ultimately things that normally wouldn't be available. But it just shows the generosity from BRDC members that under in the world that we live in at the moment, they're able to go above and beyond and give people the opportunities for the benefit of raising money for the NHS. So yeah, immensely proud of everybody who's participated in the championship, and some awesome prizes, as you say.
Indeed, Steve Soper putting up this signed photograph of him in the BMW Le Mans car. Also, Andy Prio has offered his used, it must be said, Le Mans 2017 race suit. So again, lots of members offering from their archive, as it were, prizes to help to raise money. Now, let's turn our attention to the last couple of 3 minutes of the free practice session, which is being headed by Jordan Albert. And Andy, he is somebody that has been getting better and better and better as this series has gone on, because he's always been, to coin a phrase, there or thereabouts, but only in the last couple of races have we seen him on the podium. He had a third, last week a second. Theoretically, this should be his night, shouldn't it?
No pressure at all. But no, I have to say, we were chatting beforehand, and I think everybody would love to see Jordan get a result tonight. Jordan works for iZone, who are our technical partner in the championship, and certainly as his workload has decreased throughout the championship in terms of helping everybody set the championship up, which he's done an amazing job at. It's freed him up in terms of a little bit of time to actually practice. I think for the first 3 rounds he didn't get an opportunity, because I know because I think he's spending 23 hours a day on the phone to me. Certainly in the last couple of weeks he's got more and more competitive. So to get a victory at the final round, yes, the championship has been won, but everybody only remembers your last race is something that my father taught me when I got involved in motorsport, and that's very much true. So hopefully Jordan can have a strong result here tonight, and if he does, I mean, there's so much kudos in heading, being even, to be honest with you, in the top 10, dare I say 20. I mean, you look at the practice session, top 25 of the practice session covered by 1 second. I mean, Martin Plowman was just under a second, 9/10 off, just 1 second off, and he was in 25th. So it just shows the competitiveness of this championship.
It remains, even though we have a few drivers that are new this week and 1 or 2 that have dropped out over the course of the season, it remains the most amazing entry, doesn't it, of BRDC full members, rising stars and superstars. The rising stars that we've had in previous races, it's the best placed of those that are given an opportunity to come onto this grid. Plus we've got again 1 or 2 new drivers this week, but the likes of Charlie Fagg, the likes of Ben Tuck, Ayrton Simmons, Tom Canning, who've all impressed over previous races, come back onto the grid this evening, and their inclusion again is going to be really interesting to see how they shape up against those that have done the whole season.
Absolutely, and I think that highlights the strength of depth and quality that we've got within the BRDC, but also within the UK. And one of my favourite moments of this championship, when I think back, is actually looking at, we had a week where I think it was the likes of Tom Blomqvist was unable to take part for the week, so we called upon multiple World Touring Car Champion Andy Prio to be one of our reserves. And I don't think that there's very often that Andy Prio is, shall we say, on the subs bench, but that just shows the quality we've got within the UK. And as you say, it's fantastic as well. Not just see the older, established, more drivers of your likes of your Frank Keaties and your Richard Westbrook, your Andy Prios, your Steve Sopers, your Jason Platos. But then you pitch them against your likes of your rising stars, who to give them their opportunity, guys who are on the upward trajectory of their career. Ben Tuck, for me, as you say, Charlie Fagg, Ayrton Simmons, they're just absolute superstars, rising stars in their own right, and they're just brilliant to see them mixing and going wheel to wheel with the legends of our sport.
I mean, the likes of Steve Soper, who did the majority of his winning 3 decades ago, comes from an age where Sims just didn't exist. I mean, this is all very new to him. So, in a sense, full marks to Steve for putting his whatnot on the block, because he is taking on younger drivers who are well versed in sim racing. He's got a lot to lose, in a sense, given his track record, but he's competing in a very alien environment.
Do you know what I love about racing drivers, and I include myself in this, is we always say, I don't. This is when we're not quite used to being quick. It's I don't mind not being at the front, but this is wrong, and this and honestly, the racing driver never leaves you. And Steve has been an absolute fantastic part of this championship, and right from day one, the competitive spirit never leaves you, and an absolute legend of a sport. And I think he's definitely been spending hours and hours on his sim, trying to perfect it, and it's been brilliant to see that, and just a unique experience to see all these members competing together. It's like it's almost like Goodwood, but everybody's accessible as well. It's not everybody forgets the sort of ego side of it, kind of, apart from most of the drivers. Actually, they kind of, as a spectator, you forget, you just want to see people racing against one another, and it's brilliant to see.
Well, this qualifying session is underway, and it is Ollie Rowland that goes top early, 126.979. Goes over the timing line down towards turn 1. And let's see what Jordan Albert can do. He's 72 thousandths back. Then you've got Ed Jones going third fastest, and Richard Westbrook, who had an off towards the end of free practice. He had a big slide at the start of qualifying. He was fourth, but he's now down to fifth behind Sandy Mitchell, as he goes now down towards turn 1. There, the slightly banked first corner, out of which goes Jonathan Hoggard. Now, that's the man that's already won the championship. Nothing to prove this evening, but he'd like to go out on a high, wouldn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, Jonathan's just been, apart from that one mistake earlier in the championship, was it Silverstone? Was it Monza? I can't remember now. Monza. Yeah, he made an uncharacteristic mistake. But apart from that, he's been absolutely faultless. And personally, for me, he's just he reminds me of Kimi. He's a little Iceman. He's so calm, so in control of his own emotions, and that's why I say that the mistake was slightly uncharacteristic. But but do you know what the most amazing thing about that is I assumed, and I speak to Jonathan pretty regularly because he's one of our BRDC superstars, and I only got a picture this week of what his simulator was, and honestly, you will be amazed how basic that simulator was. And he sent me this picture of the upgrades he's been getting as lockdown has been going on. He's got a new pedal box, he's got a new steering wheel, and I just sent him a message back and said, wow, you can't get any faster. Please don't. It's unfair. Really super talented driver, and no surprise he won the BRDC Young Driver of the Year award last year.
Well, we've just seen Oliver Rowland have a moment in his quest to get himself up to the top of the times. Oliver can't win the championship, but he wants to be the best of the rest if he can. He wants to be second. We've got Ed Jones, though, now onto provisional pole position from Sandy Mitchell. Jonathan Hoggard has gone through, but he's only 10th, so it's going to be interesting, this, if he ends the session on the 5th row of the grid, what progress he can make. We've also got Richard Westbrook on his toes. He is 9th fastest. Oliver Rowland now improves to go 3rd. Ben Tuck 4th. Ash Sutton 5th. Charlie Fagg 6th. Jordan Albert 7th. Ben Hanley 8th. It's looking like a really interesting jumbled grid here, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Ed Jones again, one of those drivers who joined the championship relatively late, and straight from the last round, the moment he joined, he was super fast. And one of those drivers I'd like to see is Ash Sutton, who's again one of our BRDC superstars. I've sat next to Ash, and he's driven me around the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone. I know how talented he is, and he's shown his speed at various stages of this championship. But you remember the last time out at Suzuka, had that spin at the start of the race on cold tyres, and I know he'll be looking to try and hopefully get at least on the podium in this final round.
And off the road there bounces, I think, Ash Sutton. We've just got Charlie Fagg, though, on 2 provisional pole positions. So Charlie Fagg has done a very good job to be 300ths quicker than anybody else. Others sorting themselves out with a bit of damage. Here comes Jonathan Hogarth then, up towards the timing line. Does he improve? 10th fastest he was, 10th fastest he still is, 127, 107. In fact, he's now down to 11th because Seb Morris has just gone by. Ash Sutton is up to 8th, and another improver is Toby Sowery, who's done a 127.013. There is Ash Sutton going, not for the pit lane, but into the wall. So it was a lap that did have one absolute best sector within it, but it's all unravelled for Ash. He got a 3rd at Monza, but more's been expected. Another one off the road there, 55, that is Will Tregurtha. You get the feeling, looking at this, Andy, that this is going to be a circuit that catches out quite a few of them.
Absolutely. I know the pit wall and the entry into Interlagos is fairly close, but Ash pushing the extremities there and taking it to the extreme. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those circuits when you look at the championship so far, Silverstone, Monza, Spa, all race circuits that we all know, that we generally have been to on a fairly regular basis. But at the last 2 rounds, and especially why I wanted to throw them in there in this championship, Suzuka, Interlagos, for me, at the end of a Formula One season always historically finished at Interlagos, and it's interesting to see how the drivers, it separates some drivers one from another. Certain drivers learn the track quicker than others, and circuits that they're maybe not so used to. So yeah, nice to throw that sort of that curveball in there.
Well, Charlie Fagg, you've got to say, is the standout at the moment, because there he is, 300ths up on anybody else. So Charlie Fagg, Ed Jones, the provisional front row of the grid. Tom Canning breaks the beam, and as he goes through, he is 19th fastest. The second row provisionally, Sandy Mitchell and Ben Tuck. So there are drivers. Sandy Mitchell has done the whole season, but the others have dipped in and out, either through other commitments or their rising star status. And so at the end of qualifying, Charlie Fagg is the man on pole position. Ed Jones lines up alongside him. The second row of the grid is going to be Sandy Mitchell and Ben Tuck. And the third row, Richard Westbrook and Ben Hanley, having one of his best qualifyings. The fourth row is Oliver Rowland and Ash Sutton. The fifth row is Toby Sowery and Jordan Albert. And where is Jonathan Hogarth? He's on the outside of the sixth row of the grid. So he's got some work to do from there, hasn't he?
Absolutely, but I do remember a few years ago, Jenson Button coming and winning his championship at Interlagos from fairly low on the grid. So it is a place that you could overtake. It'll be interesting, but yeah, Jonathan maybe hasn't been as I can't remember his qualifying positions from before, but maybe hasn't been as quick as he has been in qualifying. So yeah, it'd be great to see a strong battle at the front, and as you say, Charlie Fagg. Super impressive. Getting pole there, really a super quick guy. So maybe he'll be able to. One of the key things that we've seen in this championship so far is the ability for the front runners in the championship or the race to break the toe, to get away from the rest of the grid. So it'd be really interesting to see if Charlie can break that toe early on and try and get a lights to flag victory.
There are also other drivers, the likes of Callum Eilert, for example, who perhaps haven't delivered the results that one might have anticipated through all of this. And Ayrton Simmons, I don't think, got a time in at the end of that session. So he's going to start from the rear of the grid anyway. But Charlie Fagg, the standout in qualifying, but a lot of drivers here with things to prove, whether it's for the championship, whether it's for pride in this final race of the season. And very shortly we'll be getting underway because the flag is officially out now. Drivers get their limited number of laps within the 10 minutes. The server will reset and then we should be good to go as you confirm the grid. So it is Charlie Fagg lining up on pole position with Ed Jones alongside. The second row of the grid, Sandy Mitchell and Ben Tuck ahead of Richard Westbrook, and then IndyCar racer Ben Hanley. Oliver Rowland then will go from 7th. Alongside him is touring car champion Ash Sutton. Toby Sowery is on the 5th row with Jordan Albert for company, ahead of Seb Morris and then Jonathan Hoggard, who goes from 12th as the champion. Then you've got Oliver Turvey alongside Will Tregurtha. Next up, Tom Gamble and Ben Green from the DTM Trophy. Ben Barnicoat, McLaren GT factory driver, lines up alongside another McLaren rep, Paul Rees. Then you've got Tom Canning and Tom Ingram next to him, ahead of Johnny Adam and then Ewan Mackay from the European GT4 series. After that, there is JD Fannin and Will Stevens on the next row of the grid, behind who come Martin Plowman, starting 25th. Alex Brundle is 26th on the grid, then Adam Morgan and Callum Eilert. Should be a man to watch, I would have thought, there. Then you've got Ross Gunn making his debut in the series with Gary Paffett for company, and it is Steve Soper and Ayrton Simmons to round out the 32-strong grid for this final race then within the BRDC Esports Championship with iZone. The grid is almost complete. We've got one or two more cars still to appear upon it, and the grid will, there it is, flesh out as other drivers join the server, and then we will be good to go. So you've got Charlie Fagg and Ed Jones at the front of the grid. Let's see whether it is going to be a race win for either of them, or what Oliver Rowland can do, because we've seen him make good progress up from the rear of the grid in previous races. Jonathan Hoggard is going to be on his toes as well. One more race in the BRDC Esports Championship. It is here at Interlagos. It is go, and a good start made then by Ed Jones from the front of the grid, but another decent getaway by Sandy Mitchell, trying to force a way between the front row cars. Jones will lead down towards turn one. Slotting in behind him is Charlie Fagg. Oliver Rowland goes a little bit wide, and there's drama in the pack. Look, because off has gone Seb Morris amongst others. I fear Jonathan Hoggard has got tangled up. There's a huge number of cars. Yeah, Jonathan Hoggard is involved. Lots of drivers all caught up in that from the plunge downhill from turn 1 to turn 2. JD Fannin is in the middle of it, and there's more contact as people try and, almost stock car style, force a way out of the melee. But on track, Ed Jones did lead, but for how much longer? Charlie Fagg makes his move, and then right there behind them in third place is Sandy Mitchell. Ben Tuck is fourth, Oliver Rowland is fifth, and Sandy Mitchell to the inside line goes second. Just gets his nose in front, secures the place, Andy, on a rather chaotic first lap.
Absolutely, a little bit like Suzuka, the first couple of corners, drivers struggling on cold tyres and making a mistake. So absolutely an incident in the middle of the pack, and that was sure shape things up now moving forward. So absolutely very interesting to see what happens here. And as you say, I'm glad that, for Jonathan Hoggard, he's won the championship in advance of this final round.
Yeah, because he's way down the pecking order now. We've just had Ben Tuck getting in stride, tapped into a spin, and off the road has gone Richard Westbrook as well now. So Richard, who of course in his first career was a single-seater champion, Austrian Formula 3 champion, drops down the order. Ed Jones versus Sandy Mitchell, and then to try to make it 3 wide as they come up towards the timing line, number 14 there, Charlie Fagg. They are indeed 3 abreast as they come down towards turn 1. On the inside line, though, Ed Jones, set for the DTM this year, he hangs on to the advantage, and he will lead Sandy Mitchell downhill for the second time. 25 minutes of racing. In third spot, it is Charlie Fagg. But while these 3 are busy squabbling, look who is there. Ominous in fourth place and closing. It's Oliver Rowland.
He's almost like the Alan Prost of the Professor. He just sits there, picks people off. He made a couple of times in this championship. It was one of the rounds he struggled because of his bad internet, and even in that race he picked people off. So excited to see what Oliver can do. Can he get on the back of this battle?
And also closing on him, as you see, Jones versus Mitchell for the race lead. Closing on Oliver Rowland is not only Ben Hanley but Jordan Albert, and for second and third in the championship it's Jordan Albert versus Oliver Rowland. So there's that little battle to keep in mind as well. But look, Rowland now is on the back of Fagg, so it's 4 for the race lead. Ed Jones has the advantage here. Look, former Euro Formula champion, a spin there, that was Ben Hanley. Whoops, there's contact as he rejoins and gets eliminated by Ben Barnicoat. There's another spin which is Alex Brundle, so more mayhem. And there, getting harpooned, Ben Barnicoat by Gary Paffett, and another car gets splattered as it tries to go through a disappearing gap. You can tell it's the last round, can't you? They're all getting a bit demob happy here, and driving standards are not quite as they were at the start of the year, shall we say.
No, definitely not. And I think Derek Warwick will be even busier than normal tonight. But it almost looks like the car park at my local Sainsbury's, trying to get a part in the queue for the for the entry to the supermarket at the moment. Everyone going mental. But yeah, it's really unnecessary to see drivers rejoin the track like that and taking other drivers out. But at the front, we've got an amazing battle here for the lead.
And Oliver Rowland is the real menace in this look because he forces the door open on the inside line, tries to find a way past, first of all, Charlie Fagg, mission accomplished. Then he gets onto the back of Sandy Mitchell, but he's on the outside line, so back through will go Fagg and retake third place. Jones still leads the way, but it's 4 for the race lead now. In third place, about to go second, is Charlie Fagg as he scrabbles up on the inside line there, but that puts him on the outside for the next corner. So Sandy Mitchell comes back at him. And Oliver Rowland, who's also been one of the stars in the virtual Formula E Championship these last few months, is there fourth, waiting to make his move. Back up into second goes Fagg, but all of a sudden, look, Ed Jones has escaped up the road by about 3 cars' lengths.
Absolutely, we've seen it time and time again, every single race. If they don't get involved in a battle, they can just make that break the toe, and that usually ends up in the race winner. But Oliver Rowland, as I say, he's sitting there in the background like a bit of a shark, waiting to see what prey he can get. I've been told I'm not allowed to call him experienced because he told me apparently it makes him sound like he's too old. He's only 28, so but it's should we say years behind the wheel, not age in himself. And yeah, but it's really interesting to see Ed Jones here making that break, and hopefully he can break that gap and hopefully get away from these guys.
Now there's another good significant battle on for 5th place. We're looking back now from Charlie Fagg's car and what's going on around him, but look behind, there's Oliver Rowland about to make his move now for 2nd place. Look behind, 5th is Jordan Albert, and he, remember, is Oliver Rowland's big threat for 2nd in the title race. So now Jordan Albert working his way up the order. There's a drive-through penalty look for Ben Hanley for an unsafe rejoin. So Ben Hanley gets a drive-through from Derek Warwick. Watching all of this, there is Johnny Adam coming towards us, and behind him you've got Ben Hanley, but he's about to be penalised as Oliver Rowland then in 2nd place sets off in pursuit of Ed Jones, and Jordan Albert, needing the points, has got to get up with Mitchell and past him and get past Fagg and try and stay on the tail if he can, and that's Jonathan Hoggard rejoining from the pit lane. So it's not going to be a happy end to the championship for him. But right now, Ed Jones is looking really impressive, but the fascination will be whether Oliver Rowland can bring down this gap between him and the race leader.
Absolutely, but as you say, it's that battle between Oliver and Jordan Albert for 2nd in the championship. Not just pride is that matter here. We've got honours and prizes for these drivers. The 2nd place in this championship will receive a pedal box system from CE Sports, one of our championship sponsors. So there's a lot to fight for here.
Well, Oliver Rowland is fighting definitely, you can see that. He's up into 2nd place as Fagg runs 3rd, Mitchell 4th, and Jordan Albert is almost with them. Fastest lap of the race, though, now to Ed Jones, 3 wide here, look, as they power their way from turn 3 down that fast back straight. Oliver Rowland has the inside line, but Jordan Albert is almost with them. Behind, in 6th place, it's Will Tregurtha having his best showing of the championship. Oliver Turvey likewise 7th. Recovering 8th is Ben Tuck. 9th is Seb Morris, and 10th is Toby Sowery, and Ayrton Simmons is 11th. That means he has gained 21 places up from the back of the grid, Ayrton Simmons, having not done a time in qualifying. So I know he's been helped by people going off the road on the first few corners, but even so, from the very back, 32nd to 11th, that is good going from Ayrton Simmons, and he could yet get into the points.
Absolutely, Ayrton is a proper driver. I mean, honestly, he is he's super quick, and you know, it's almost great to see him not score a time in qualifying, because it gives you the opportunity to see him carve his way through the grid as he has. So super talented guy.
Yeah, he went toe-to-toe with Jonathan Hoggard in the BRDC British F3 Championship last year. Both of them proved to be really good overtakers. There is Ayrton Simmons. As we talk about him, he is keeping Tom Ingram at bay, British touring car star, and then Richard Westbrook in 13th place. As Rowland, Fagg, Mitchell, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, break the beam once more. 7.5 minutes and 25 are in the book, down towards turn 1, and out wide there goes Fagg, so Sandy Mitchell pounces and goes through. But have a look behind, because Jordan Albert is lapping quicker than those ahead of him, and he's almost on the tail. Number 21, Jordan Albert, another convert from single-seaters to GT4 racing, inching up now onto the back of Charlie Fagg. To the inside of Rowland goes Sandy Mitchell, and he dives through going into turn 4. Rowland gets run out wide. but he hangs on to the place. Fabulous racing this, and Ed Jones surely will agree because it's gifting him a monster advantage.
Absolutely, he'll be lapping this up. He'll be thinking, boys, you just keep fighting, no problem. I'm going to cruise. Well, not cruise, but he'll definitely be pushing. But he's got an easy time out there at front. But let's not take it away from Ed. He's a super quick guy. As you say, DTM this year and with Audi, and always quick in everything he does. But he's got to be precise. It's a relatively long race, for a Formula 3 race, this as well. And especially in the virtual world, the guys have got to keep their concentration. So, although he's out there at the moment, we have seen G drivers make mistakes throughout the championship. So, he's not home and dry yet.
This is true. There's the battle pack then, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, because Will Tregurtha, having his best showing of the championship, is right there behind as they come now up towards the timing line then. They're about to go through that turn 15 kink up towards start and finish line, past the stands. Very impressive crowd attendances for the BRDC ESports Championship, Andy. Wherever we've taken this series, you've managed to attract a big crowd, which is encouraging.
Well, all the BRDC members are not doing very much at the moment, mate. So we just asked them to fly out to wherever it is and quarantine depending. Obviously, everyone comes back 14 days and sits at home. So it's nice to see that BRDC is not a big club, but we make sure our members go and watch the races. Absolutely
right, so it should be. Now there for 2nd place, Oliver Rowland and Sandy Mitchell tucked up behind him, aiming for that 2nd spot. Behind them, Fag, Albert, Tregurtha, 4th, 5th and 6th. And Will Tregurtha now on his toes to try and get up alongside Jordan Albert, make the place. This is bad news for Jordan's championship aspirations if he's got to start defending, because he'll lose touch with those ahead. They could do with working together. Now, of course, it is possible through Discord, which is the platform that the drivers use for this championship, to talk to drivers if you've got a channel set up, so they could say to one another, if the channel is there, let's stop fighting, let's work together and try and stay with that gaggle. It may not be possible to do that, and it might be all gloves off, and therefore they will delay themselves. And look, Oliver Rowland now is just gradually extending that gap a little over Sandy Mitchell, who was really unlucky at Monza when his internet connection was lost. But Sandy 4th, last time out at Suzuka, looking as though he might be on the podium, and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo and GT Endurance racer would be very deserving of the podium, because he's shown good pace when we've seen him this year. You're absolutely right in terms of drivers working together, and in the virtual world we do have the added advantage that we're in direct communication with one another. However, you are forgetting the one thing, which is the driver ego, which is always I see that gearbox in front and it's just a target, I've got to get past you. So they should be working together, but hopefully they will be, but sometimes it's quite hard to implement. And there speaks the voice of experience, racing driver Andy Merrick. Not that he, of course, would have an ego. However, Oliver Rowland here has done the fastest lap of the race. So it is game on, isn't it now? Oliver would like to end the season not only with 2nd in the championship, but another race win. As here, you've got the Oliver Turvey, Ben Tuck, Seb Morris fight to be 7th, 8th or 9th. But 4/10ths, give or take, taken out of Ed Jones' lead last time by Oliver Rowland. He's not giving up with his quest to win the race, that's for sure. No, Ollie's a fighter. He's always been a tough guy, both mentally and physically throughout his career. You've seen that. So he definitely good friends with Ed Jones, absolutely. But that probably is going to motivate him even more to try and get back on his gearbox here and hunt him down. Absolutely right, as they come up towards the timing line. So Ed Jones leads the way, but now he needs to start not just preserving, but maybe stretching that gap once more, because Oliver Rowland is on a mission. Having got through the traffic, he has shaken off, really, the challenge of Sandy Mitchell and so can he now concentrate on Ed Jones, or is Sandy Mitchell going to close back up? Sandy is fractionally faster then, just thousandths quicker, but he does bring down the gap. Gets a tow coming past the pits. Ed Jones goes through, and drama. Ben Tuck is off the road. That was involved with Seb Morris and also Oliver Turvey. And that's Ben Tuck's 2nd incident of the race, the first with Ben Hanley, if you remember. Real shame that, because Ben was mighty at Monza when we saw him debut in the championship. What happened? He went to the outside line, contact, I'm afraid, with Turvey, and off goes Ben Tuck. That's such a shame, because Ben, he looks like he might have. He looks like he might have got a helping hand there from Seb going into turn 1. Easy mistake to make, but I don't think that mistake was down to Ben. I think Seb maybe showed a wheel and caught his left rear. More mayhem. Callum Islet off the road, and as he tries to rejoin, wipes out. Well, we've got 2 upside down now, one of whom is Ben Green, but there was another car that was catapulted into a roll. Let's try and piece all this together again, because there you've got Callum Islet on the back here, look, coming towards us. That's with the recovering Ben Tuck. So there's drama ahead. Callum spins. But then, and we've seen Derek Warwick give penalties for an unsafe rejoin. Callum just drives out. That's Alex Brundle, isn't it? That he absolutely wipes out. Yes, it was. It was Alex Brundle. And so 2 more drivers, I'm afraid, upside down, out of the race. As Sandy Mitchell goes back ahead of Oliver Rowland. Sandy has just done the fastest lap of the race. Now, not only are they trading second spot, but to the eye, they're closing a little bit on Ed Jones. It also means Oliver Rowland is falling down the order. Now, he's not yet into the clutches of Jordan Albert, because Jordan needs to get up onto terms with Charlie Fagg and try and get past him. There, 21 is Jordan Albert. Remember, it's him versus Ollie Rowland, number 44, for second in the championship. But right now, Sandy Mitchell under attack for his second place. But Sandy doing a really good job battling his way back up ahead of Rowland.
Absolutely, and it doesn't take much for these drivers to have a little bit of contact, and suddenly Jordan's got that second place in the championship back his way. And Sandy, he's got grit and determination. He's a super fast guy, and as you say, very unlucky early in the championship when he had a strong result on the cards, and his Scottish broadband let him down a little bit. But up in the Highlands, it looks like it's working tonight, and he's super quick. So it's great to see him facing Ollie and showing him his worth.
Now, as long as Oliver Rowland stays ahead of Jordan Albert, he's good for second in the championship, but it's whether Jordan can get up with effectively 10 more minutes of the race to go and start closing that gap down. He's not really near enough to Charlie Fagg, though, is he? He needs those 3 ahead of him to get together and really hold each other up, trip over themselves, because Jordan's just a little bit too far back to benefit from a tow and to benefit from any scrapping. And equally, Charlie Fagg is sort of in splendid isolation himself in 4th place. He's not battling with Jordan, but nor is he on the back of this fight for second place, which is well and truly joined once more, as now Oliver Rowland gets under the gearbox of Sandy Mitchell's car. This is for second place. Out of the Cover de Sol, they come down now towards turn 4. Does Rowland dive to the inside line? No, not there, he doesn't. This plays back into Ed Jones's hands, because he will build that gap. And Charlie Fagg in 4th place, inching up onto the back 2. 5th is Jordan Albert, 6th Will Tregertha. It's Seb Morris, 7th. Toby Sowry is 8th. Oliver Turvey, 9th. And Tom Ingram is into the points in 10th place now.
Ollie Rowland really wants those that pedal set from CE Sports. I tell you, he's boxing clever. I wouldn't be surprised if he does a little lunge on the last lap. Doesn't give him an opportunity for Sandy to fight back. He's playing a very clever game here. So he's doing a mega job. It's a shame to see Richard Westbrook's drop back down to 11th. I don't know what happened to him. He's been quick throughout the practice sessions and qualifying, and Westy's been amazing throughout this championship. So it's a shame to see him drop down out of contention here, because I thought he was a race-winning contention for this final round.
Jonathan Hoggard, a lap down, but has done the fastest lap of the race, and it's good that Jonathan hasn't just disconnected and given up. Even though we can't get anything out of this, he's still pushing as hard as possible. Fastest man in the race now, 1:27.081, until that last lap of Oliver Rowland. Trading it back again now. Oliver Rowland at 27.029 as the fastest lap of the race. As you see, Seb Morris there battling with Toby Sowry, but good that Jonathan Hoggard, as I say, is still going. Also, talking of dropping down, Ethan Simmons, who was up into 11th, has fallen back into 18th place, as now Rowland again is right on the back of Sandy Mitchell, trying to force a mistake out of him. The lead gap is only 11/10ths, give or take, so Ed Jones is being caught by these two, no question about it.
Absolutely, they are. What's amazing here is they're managing to race and defend, and Sandy's is just curving off that the slight attack from Oliver, but they're still able to slightly close in on Ed Jones. And one thing we have seen in these relatively long races for Formula 3, for sure, is tyre degradation is key. So I don't know what Ed was like in the final round, but it'll be interesting to see what if he's conserved those rear tyres, he'll be okay. If not, maybe these guys are going to be able to close back in and attack him for the last couple of rounds.
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because he certainly pushed early when he got the lead to try and build that gap. Now maybe the proverbial chickens are coming home to roost here, because that gap certainly is down and down and down. Jones leads the way. It was under a second at the last sector point. In second place is Sandy Mitchell. We've got, 8 minutes to go as they come over the timing line. And Oliver Rowland does another fastest lap of the race now. 1:27.003. So Oliver Rowland is still throwing everything at this. As long as he's ahead of Jordan Albert, he's good to be the runner-up in the championship. But Ed Jones, who's been DTM testing yesterday, the day before, turning his attention to this eSports Championship. He's the race leader as Roland goes second, dives through on the inside to go ahead of Sandy Mitchell, but then goes off the road and Sandy fights back, but he can't find a way by. So just hanging on to position, Oliver Rowland. But now look back from his car, and there is Sandy Mitchell almost again on the attack, almost looking up the inside. And Charlie Fagg and Jordan Albert are almost together as well in the background. So there are still plenty of battles to shake out of this. Rowland is second. He's the fastest man in the race, and he's going after Ed Jones. But while he got past Sandy Mitchell, so the gap extended by a couple of tenths, he's got to bring that down before he can think about attacking for the race lead and the race win.
I think from looking at the practice sessions this week, that the toe really has a big effect. With once you're within that sort of 0.6 or 0.7 sort of gap to the people in front. So if Oliver and Sandy can work up to Ed Jones here, they might be. It's almost like that DRS effect that we see in Formula One. If they can get on the gearbox, get that toe effect, they'll be able to cruise up upon. But they're just outside that sort of gap at the moment. But if they carry on at this speed, they'll be able to close up on him pretty quickly.
Well, we're running out of time as Sandy Mitchell back into second place, keeps Oliver Rowland at bay. And what is the gap between the top two? Just hovering around the 1 second mark. So Sandy Mitchell is on for his best finish of the season, but he's got Oliver Rowland right there behind him. Next up, it is Charlie Fagg in that fourth place. Rowland just gets his nose in front and secures second place, diving now down towards turn 4. So Oliver Rowland is back into second spot. Now, what is Charlie Fagg's last lap like relative to those ahead? It's fractionally slower, but Jordan Albert, there he is, look, number 21, is catching the driver that was one of the stars in GT4 racing last year, both in Europe and in the ADAC's German-based championship. So Jordan Albert, third 2 weeks ago, second last week. He was aiming for the win. It ain't going to happen seemingly, but can he get on the podium? As you look here at Richard Westbrook versus Tom Ingram versus Ben Tuck, and there's contact again. Poor old Ben is in the wars, and it's Toby Sowry that gives him a tap. Toby Sowry also goes off the road and spins as he tries to rejoin. So Ben Tuck's yo-yo race of gaining and losing places continues. He rejoins, but sadly we're not seeing the best out of him this evening as we did at Monza. There's the leader. There is Ed Jones. We're into the last 5 minutes of the race now as Oliver Rowland heads up towards the timing line behind him, and the gap, let's see, 8 tenths. It is definitely coming down. And now, if Oliver Rowland can continue to fend off the advance of Sandy Mitchell and concentrate on the race leader, a race win is certainly possible. Look for fourth. Fagg versus Albert, that absolutely nose to tail. On board now with Jordan Albert. This is for fourth place, and he needs to get there while Oliver Rowland is just about within striking distance. Here he comes, up on the inside line. This should be fourth place for Jordan Albert into turn 4. Yes, it is. Mission accomplished. And off the road, wide goes Charlie Fagg behind him.
Absolutely. Do you know what this is? This just reminds me of Interlagos in Formula One. Final round of the Formula One Championship. There's so much to play for. There's so many contentions and with so many different outcomes of the championship. And fantastic to see all these guys still going wheel to wheel. Feel sorry for Ben Tuck there. He was getting roughed up a little bit, but probably nothing that he's not used to at racing at the Nordschleife every weekend. He probably thinks that's nothing, to be honest with you.
But it's been good to have him back on the grid because he was certainly a real hit at Monza, wasn't he? And got caught up with Richard Westbrook towards the end of that race. Wasn't it there that Westy put a little tweet out saying, I don't know who you are, Ben Tuck, but you're really impressive. But Ben, this evening, he's currently in 12th place, still circulating. Race leader comes up over the timing line. There is Ben Tuck, of whom we speak, racing this year in the DTM Trophy. We've seen him in the VLN and GT racing and Caterhams from where he came. Jones goes over the timing line then. What have we got left? 2 more laps maybe in the race. Just about squeezed 2 out of this, and the gap is less than ever now, 7 tenths of a second. There's Jordan Albert. He's finally got himself up into 4th place, but I fear it is not enough because Oliver Rowland is far enough up the road to suggest he's going to be able to stay ahead of Jordan Albert in the race and in the championship. But here comes Sandy Mitchell almost into the back of Rowland now. They could not be closer on the run down to turn 4. But they are almost with Ed Jones. This is going to be a really interesting last lap because when they start it, Andy, they'll probably be 3 for the lead.
They absolutely will be, and just, you know, it just begs the question, why is this championship finishing? I just want it to carry on, to be perfectly honest with you. It's fantastic to see these guys going wheel to wheel, nose to gearbox. It's brilliant. I'm loving watching this racing.
we could do with a few more rounds, that is for sure, because it has given great racing, and the commitment from all of the drivers, whether it's by racing or their donations of prizes or financial support, has been impressive too, especially now that with the world opening up. We're talking about Ed Jones leading the race. He's just been DTM testing during the last 3 days, and yet he is still here taking part in this charity championship, this BRDC ESports Championship. Now it's harder for drivers to commit because the real world is opening up a little bit more. But there he is on the grid. Oliver Rowland is right there behind him, and as they start the last lap, they're going to be a length, maybe a length and a half apart. The last lap of the race, the last lap of the championship, and Oliver Rowland now is on his toes to go for the race lead. He tries the outside at turn 1. Looks for the switchback. Sandy Mitchell is there right with them as well in 3rd place. He could yet luck into a win here if they trip over themselves. So out of turn 3, head down the hill now. Any one of these 3 could be the race winner. Indeed, the man in 4th place, Jordan Albert, could yet be the winner depending on what happens ahead of him. But Rowland is on the outside, Jones on the inside. Has he asked too much of his tyres early on? He's now having to get really, really defensive. One more lap and counting. Rowland goes one side. Where does Sandy Mitchell go as Jones covers off the inside line here as they climb the hill through turn 6, 7 and 8? And Oliver Rowland can't find a way around on the outside there. Sandy Mitchell looks to get past him. So Rowland now has got to try and attack and defend simultaneously. Crawling all over the back of him is the black car of Sandy Mitchell, but still Ed Jones hangs on to the advantage. Only just. But of course, they've got the run from turn 13 shortly to come all the way up towards the timing line, up to the checkered flag. And that is when Ed Jones might just get mugged by Oliver Rowland. Let's see. The clock ticks on down. They could even squeeze one more lap out of this. Just looking at the clock, it's going to be close. But for the sake of 20 seconds, they might just get one more out of it. And that's bad news in a sense for Ed Jones, because it's another lap he's got to defend for. It's very good news for Oliver Rowland. This is the turn 15 kink. 10 seconds are on the clock. Up towards the timing line with 6, 5, 4 to go. Through they come. One more lap then. They do squeeze one more lap out of the race, and it is Jones just ahead as they dive into turn 1, and he goes too wide this time. He's going to be on the back foot all the way down the hill. Rowland to the outside line. Sandy Mitchell again tries to split the pair of them. Ed Jones leads, but has he lost momentum coming downhill? Rowland is on the outside line. Sandy Mitchell gets the tow here. They're going to go 3 wide, are they, if there is the width of the road? Mitchell's the one that can't quite level with them. And somehow Jones hangs on to the race lead, but he goes wide, and this is Rowland's chance. They climb the hill. He's done it. Last lap of the championship, and Oliver Rowland has done it. And that, Andy, was great racing for a lap and a half.
Got a slight delay from you, so to be very honest, I'm just listening as you're commentating, and fantastic racing. It is incredible to listen to and incredible to watch. And he's going to hate me for saying this, but the old experienced Oliver Rowland, there we go, has got it. What a boy.
Except contact between the opposition and Oliver, and he's off the road just as you were talking. We've got a slight delay on pictures and feed, but as Andy was talking, so you saw Oliver Rowland just, either with a little bit of help or a little bit too much speed, go off the road. I think Ed Jones just glanced the back of him, so Ed is back in front with Sandy Mitchell behind him, and now Jordan Albert is ahead of Oliver Rowland. He's about to get second provisionally in the championship, so here they come up towards the checkered flag. Sandy Mitchell now tries to attack. He comes to the outside line. It's going to be a drag race to the line. It's going to be a virtual dead heat between the two, and Sandy Mitchell just gets his nose in front up towards the line, and Sandy Mitchell wins the final round of the championship. Ed Jones takes second, Jordan Albert third, Oliver Rowland is sixth. So Jordan third gets 58 points, Oliver Rowland for sixth gets 59. Oliver hangs on to second in the championship by a point. How did he go off the road? The replay says it was contact, but it was the slightest of touches. Ed Jones into the back of Oliver Rowland. Well, as I say, by 1 point, he's hung on to that second place in the championship. But it may be that Derek Warwick, the steward of the championship, has a look at the contact between the two. This was Sandy Mitchell's move for the win. Got the tow, coming off the last corner, goes to the outside line, just has enough to get ahead, and look how close it was. You're talking thousands there as they go across the line, but Sandy Mitchell has done it. He wins from Ed Jones and Jordan Albert, conferring the championship win, Jonathan Huggard, and second on 59 points to the 58 provisionally of Jordan Albert will be Oliver Rowland, as they're coming through some way back in the end is the car of Ayrton Simmons, who made great progress early on, then fell away a little bit. Jonathan Hargaard 21st in the end. Wow, what a way to end the championship. Great racing, plenty of drama, and a very deserving winner in Sandy Mitchell. Ed Jones takes second from Jordan Albert third, Charlie Fagg fourth, Will Tregertha fifth ahead of Oliver Rowland. Seb Morris gets seventh from Oliver Turvey, Richard Westbrook, and it is Tom Gamble, the last driver to come through to score points. Ben Tutt recovers for 11th ahead of Martin Plowman and Toms Ingram and Canning. Ewan Mackay debuts in the championship and gets 15th ahead of Paul Rees. Adam Morgan 17th, and Jody Fannin, who was involved in dramas early on in the race, comes next. Then we had Ben Barnicoat, who was in an incident, and Simmons in the end 20th. Jonathan Hargaard, the champion, a lap down 21st. And then those that didn't get to the end: Johnny Adam, Toby Sowery, Ross Garn, Callum Eilert, Ben Green, Steve Soper. We lost Alex Brundle, as well as also Ben Handley because of his penalties. Gary Paffett was in incident, so was Will Stevens, and Ash Sutton we lost right at the very start. Well, we'll come back to Andy Merrick for some thoughts in a moment. Let's try and grab one or two of the drivers then. We'll start, if we can, with Ed Jones. See if we can get Ed into our comms channel, because Ed, oh so nearly the race winner. He's in the waiting room. He joins us in the commentary room now. Ed, so close. You lost out by hundreds right at the very end. That was a tough race.
Yeah, it was a really tough race. I was surprised in qualifying. Our pace was a bit better than I expected. I had it off track in my last lap, which cost me pole. But otherwise, it was really enjoyable. The battles at the beginning of the race, and I got a bit of a gap. But ultimately, I didn't really have the race pace of Sandy and Ollie. And, it's frustrating. I didn't mean to obviously touch Ollie at the end there, which put him out. But, apart from that, I had a great race with those guys and was super close at the end.
It looked as though the penultimate lap was going to be the final one, because I think with about 3 seconds on the clock, you got through to do one more lap. So it's a shame that last lap happened in a sense. Otherwise, you'd have won it. There would have been the contact. But it was a great race to be involved in, I'm sure. We were wondering whether it was tyres going off, which is why you'd lost the pace in that sort of middle third, if you like.
No, to be honest, I just straight up didn't have the race pace of the other guys. I do struggle when I'm on the sim after a few minutes in my eyes as well, so that doesn't help.
Right.
But otherwise, no, just straight up they were better than me, and it was fortunate while I had the gap, but I knew it was going to come down bit by bit, and I tried my hardest to keep it for as long as I could there.
We've seen you do a couple of these, and you and I spoke after you did the Zolder DTM-ish lockdown series race a few weeks ago. Have you enjoyed sim racing?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Not every race is super clean or goes as smoothly as this one, but this one was definitely up there as one of my favorites so far. We had some great racing, as I said, early on and at the end. So it was really enjoyable, and I thought everyone did a great job there, and can't wait to do some more in the future.
Congratulations. Commiserations on not winning, but well done on second place, having led more laps than anybody. Well done.
Thank you.
So Ed Jones just loses out to Sandy Mitchell, who we can talk to next, because Sandy, as you saw at the time, you saw in the replay, was just able to get the run from the toe up alongside and come across the timing line to take the race win. We're talking hundreds of a second. Sandy Mitchell, race winner. Congratulations. Perfect timing, Sandy. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what a race. I mean, there was close and fair battles almost the whole way through, and right from the start it was close. This track's quite good for racing in these F3 cars because you get a big toe down two of the straights, but the infield bit's quite narrow and tight, so you don't get too much dirty air when you're in that section, so you can still follow reasonably close. So yeah, it makes it difficult because you've almost always got someone right behind you with the pace being so close in this championship. But so I knew when I came at the last corner and I was just 2 or 3 tenths behind Ed, I thought, I think I can get this on the line. And yeah, it was like going back to the cadet karting days, but thankfully just got him.
I mean, it was a mighty hectic race. You were always either attacking or defending or both, because you barely had a single corner where you weren't in company with somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. In the middle of the race, I thought I'd try and stay behind Ollie Rowland for a bit and try and see if we could catch Ed, and I just saw we were kind of catching him 1 or 2 tenths a lap, and So yeah, I took a turn in front of him, and he was in front of me for a bit, and yeah, I think we got to him with 2 laps to go, so it made it an exciting finish for the lead.
You've enjoyed these esports races. I know you had internet dramas at Monza, but on the whole, I think you've enjoyed them, and it's been fascinating to see your pace come through the championship over the 5 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. I've been really happy with my pace. I'm like quite a few of the guys in the championship. I'm relatively new to e-racing in terms of I set up my sim during lockdown, and it was a good excuse to get into it. And yeah, so it's been really fun. Like you say, Monza was a little bit disappointing after running second there, and I would have probably been right up there in the championship. But no, it's been really fun, and thanks to Andy and everyone at the BRDC, Torque and Apex and everyone. It's been really good fun to race against all these guys and raise over 20,000 now, I think, for the NHS, which is fantastic.
It is indeed. Sandy, well done. Perfect way to round out this championship. Congratulations on the race win.
Cheers, thanks very much.
So, Sandy Mitchell the winner, Ed Jones second, and Jordan Albert third in the race. Let's try and grab a word with Jordan next, somebody else that's put a huge amount of effort into this championship. Third in the race and third in the championship, Jordan. Although Oliver was behind you, he still provisionally is ahead in the championship by 1 point. But still, it was a busy race for you.
Yeah, very busy. Oh my goodness. So I started, I think 10th. Not the best qualifying, but from the experience we've had in these sim races, there are a lot of incidents sometimes. So I kept my head down, stayed clean, caught up to the pack ahead, and I worked together with Will Tragertha a bit. We pushed each other on, and then caught up onto Charlie, and I actually passed. I had a little incident with, I think, Ben Hanley, which was a shame, but I kept pushing after that. And Charlie's pace faded towards the end. That allowed me to get into 4th, and I saw a scrap ahead. I was thinking something's going to go down. Something's happening, and then I just stayed with it. And I saw Oliver, unfortunately, went off, and then got 3rd. So yeah, eventful, but great race to finish off this series.
And I think the reception from people watching, drivers taking part, some new to sim racing, has been very positive, hasn't it?
It has. And I think as drivers, we've all been super lucky to have a platform like sim racing, during this tricky time. We've all been so lucky to be able to keep sharp, stay competitive, have something to focus on, while the world is, rebuilding itself. I think this has been the perfect thing for us to have. And raising money for the NHS has been incredible as well. Reached well beyond target, and I'm just super proud to have been a part of it. And super job by everyone. And looking forward to catching up with the guys at the clubhouse eventually, and for a cup of tea. But yeah, I think we all did the BRDC proud.
Hear, hear. Jordan, well done, and thanks for your help in putting this championship together. It's much appreciated.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Right, Jordan Albert third, Ed Jones second, Sandy Mitchell race winner. Andy Merrick, BRDC Superstars director, has been watching these last couple of laps and watching all the drama unfold. What a way to end a championship, Andy.
Absolutely, and I just don't want it to finish, to be perfectly honest. Where do we start the second championship? That's all I can say. It's what a fantastic championship for what a fantastic cause, an amazing amount of money raised, and some positivity and an ability to draw BRDC members together at a very, very difficult time. So absolutely loved every second of this championship, and thank you, David, for being part of it.
My pleasure.
Almost, as I say, it's really, really proud of this championship. Really, really great thing. So, as I say, look forward to the next one.
Well, there's this real world racing that might get in the way now as the world starts to unlock. But
who cares about that? Nothing,
absolutely,
nothing.
absolutely.
Nothing.
We look forward to your next championship creation, Andy, because this was a big hit. So maybe a winter series of something we'll look forward to. But it has been, as you say, a big hit. Thanks to all of the BRDC members, the Rising Stars and the Superstars that have taken part in it. An awful lot of effort has gone into this championship from the likes of the support of HP Tuners, thanks to them, to Apex TV, to iZone, to all the members of the British Racing Drivers Club, to the drivers that have taken part, to Andy Merrick himself for having the initiative to pull this together, to the guys at Talk for their efforts in promoting the championship, and perhaps most importantly of all, to those of you watching who have been able to dig deep and contribute through the Just Giving page and through the eBay auctions to help raise money for the NHS charities. It is much appreciated, and ultimately that is what the series has been for. We've had some great racing, the drivers have had a lot of fun doing it, but it was all for the NHS charities to raise money for those that the initiative was created in the first place. The next BRDC Esports Championship, question mark? Well, I'm sure there will be one in some form, because this has, as we've been saying, been a real success. Thank you for your company over the last 5 weeks. We might meet again in a real world paddock in a few months' time. But from the BRDC Esports Championship, from Andy Merrick and me, David Addison, it's goodbye.